This is the Airborne Podcast. I'm your host, Ajith, and year after year, we always have this debate right around All-Star Weekend where we feel like there's certain players that get snubbed for the All-Star game. So that's why we're here tonight. That's why we're not tonight, it's still early during the day, but that's why we're here to break down the discussion and talk about the players that got snubbed. But the question you should always ask yourself is, if you feel like you have a favorite player or a player that you think is more deserving than the other, who would you take off the team that's currently constructed? That's always a debate. Like, you have to have somebody that you can take off in order to add the player that you love, whether it's your favorite player or you just respect the man's game. But before we get into that debate, I want to congratulate the All-Star reserves for both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. And I feel like certain players feel better when they get voted in by the coaches rather than fan votes, because then they realize that the coaches around the league, the best coaches around the league, respect their game and know what type of effort they put on a nightly basis, game after game. And they know what they bring to the table because they're just amazing players, right? That's why they get these nods to get into All-Star games year after year. And for me, though, I always ask myself and I ask other people, what's the criteria? Are you looking at individual stats or are you looking at team success? Because, I mean, I don't know. I think it like, for me personally, I don't think it's been consistent through the years on what the criteria has to be and what the criteria the players have to meet in order to make the All-Star game. But I got a lot to talk about. I got a lot of players to describe and get into their individual stats. But I want to start off by congratulating the Eastern Conference reserves, starting with Bam Adebayo, a first-time All-Star. Must feel real good. Miami is in third place, or maybe actually I think they might be fourth place because Boston Celtics have the tiebreaker with them. And I think Boston and Miami have an identical record, which puts Boston over Miami for that third spot. So Miami Heat currently in the fourth spot in the Eastern Conference. They got Bam Adebayo, a first-time All-Star, Jimmy Butler, a five-time All-Star, both going to the 2020 Chicago All-Star Game. I gotta give love to my boy Kyle freaking Lowry, six-time All-Star, sixth straight year, greatest Raptor of all time, NBA champion. The accolades just go on and on and on. But congratulations to my boy Kyle Lowry for making another All-Star nod, for getting another All-Star nod. Chris Middleton, two-time All-Star, got voted in for the second straight year by coaches. Milwaukee, they're number one seed. They are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. Only got 6 losses. So you can see why they get 2 All-Stars in the game. Domantas Sabonis, another first-time All-Star. Indiana Pacers, they're afloat in the top 2 to 6 seed right now in the Eastern Conference, fighting for home court, and that's without Victor Oladipo. So congratulations to Domantas Sabonis. Ben Simmons, he was an All-Star last year, second year in a row being voted in by the coaches. And Philly, even though they're slipping, they're still in the mix with all the other Eastern Conference contenders right now. Them and Milwaukee were known to be the top 2 dogs going into the season, but they've slipped a lot with injuries and just their inconsistent play. But congratulations to Ben Simmons. And last but not least, Jayson Tatum, first-time All-Star, getting the nod by coaches. Boston fighting in the mix for that 2 to 6 seed as well. Kemba Walker got voted in by the fans, the media, and the players. And Jayson Tatum, first-time nod. Congratulations to him. Now we move on to the Western Conference teams. First-time nod for Rudy Gobert. After years of crying for an All-Star nod, he finally gets it with his team in the mix for one of the top 4 seeds in the Western Conference. Brandon Ingram, team isn't doing that great, and I don't think he would have got the nod if Paul George was healthy, but he's been keeping the New Orleans Pelicans afloat, trying to fight for that 8th seed, and he's a first-time All-Star, so congratulations to him. Nikola Jokic, Denver's been in the mix for the top 2 seeds in the last couple seasons, and he gets his second nod in a row. Congratulations to him. Damian freaking Lillard dropping 53 points, averaging 53 points in the past week or so, getting the player of the week, dropping 60, 47, 50, then dropping a 36-point triple-double. The man is on fire right now and cannot be stopped. So congratulations to him. Donovan Mitchell, another first-time All-Star. Congratulations. Utah is in the mix, killing it right now. I think they won like 19 or 18 games out of the last 20 or 21. But yeah, they've been killing it, and they're a beast in the Western Conference. Chris Paul missed the last few seasons, not making the All-Star game because he's been, with the Clippers, plagued with injuries, and then Houston playing second fiddle to James Harden. But he's back in full effect, showing people he's not washed up. He's leading the OKC Thunder to a playoff spot in the Western Conference, and he's one of the best leaders in the NBA, if not the best leader. So congratulations to Chris Paul for his 10th All-Star Game appearance. And last but not least, the man that Chris Paul got traded for or swapped teams with, Russell Westbrook. Brody, making his 9th All-Star appearance, and he's been killing it. 9th straight, I'm guessing. And Mr. Triple-Double, last 3 seasons with the OKC Thunder. Numbers aren't as great right now. He's kind of slipping like Philly in the standings. But, playoff time, you can never underestimate these guys. They're killers. Him and James Harden, both as a nasty duo in the Western Conference. Now that we're finally through congratulating everybody that made it on the All-Star Reserve team, I want to get to the snubs. Starting off with, I'm going to get the 2 guys that would have made it for sure if it wasn't for the consistent injuries this season. So Kyrie Irving, he should have made it to the All-Star game, even though Brooklyn's not playing that great, that great of basketball right now. The best basketball that they could possibly play with Kevin Durant coming back next year. He missed 26 games, and he's averaging 27 points, 5.2 rebounds, 26.8 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, 6.6 assists, and 1.4 steals per game, shooting 46% from the field. Now, this man was built for the All-Star game. But the unfortunate thing is he got hit with injuries and personal reasons and all that crap, bullshit, whatever you want to call it, and the man just didn't get an All-Star nod this year. He'll be back next year. Him and Kevin Durant, I'm sure, being on top of the East next year with the beast that those two will be, the dynamic two that they're going to be, they'll definitely be on the All-Star game next year if they're not, hit with injuries again. Next man up, Paul George. Goes to LA, gets traded to the Clippers to join forces with Kawhi Leonard, and he was already hit with injuries coming off a surgery on his shoulder in the offseason. He missed the first month of basketball, and he hasn't played that much with Kawhi Leonard, but his numbers are fantastic. He was the third runner for MVP last season, averaging 29 points last year. Not as great this year. His numbers are 23.5 points per game with 6 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and 39.5% shooting from 3. Now, he's a two-way player that most likely would have made it over Ingram if he was healthy, because his team is still in the second place. His team is still second place in the Western Conference with or without him in the lineup, and they would have been way more of a juggernaut if he was healthy. But, in a crowded group of candidates for the Conference of All-Stars, getting hit with that many injuries, being out that many games does not help his case in making the All-Star game this year, and it bit him in the backside, and unfortunately he wasn't voted in by the coaches or by fans this year. Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is averaging 26.9 points, 10.7 rebounds, 4.2 assists per game, shooting 41.2% from the three-point line. These are all-star numbers, but they're not translating to wins. That's why him and his former teammate in Kentucky, Devin Booker, not keep getting, because Karl Anthony Towns has made the All-Star game before multiple times, but that's the reason this year that him, Towns, and maybe even Wiggins didn't make the All-Star game. or didn't get in voted by the coaches or by fans. Andrew Wiggins still has a lot to work on, but Towns and Devin Booker for sure could have had a high chance of making the team if they just had more wins on their resume. They haven't together. They've only had one playoff appearance. The Phoenix Suns and Minnesota Timberwolves have only had one playoff appearance in like the last 6-7 years. And them both being a defensive liability doesn't help. They're just offensive juggernauts, but it is what it is. Karl Anthony Towns, I know, will bounce back, and Devin Booker, once the older guys retire, will eventually get an all-star nod. Bradley Beal, this was the one that might have been that a lot of people were debating in the Eastern Conference. Kyle Lowry and Bradley Beal is something Shaq was saying, should have been swapped. He's saying that he was the one who was fighting with Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and EJ, saying, like, numbers should matter more than wins when it comes to all-star games, because all-star appearances are individual success and not a team success. And with Bradley Beal averaging 28.6 points per game with 6.3 assists and shooting, his three-point shooting kind of dipped, but he's still shooting 32% from three-point range. And last night he was flirting with the triple-double. He dropped 34, 9, and 9 in a game, letting people know he was pissed off about not getting the nod. And I don't blame him. He was converting these type of averages even with the winning team. John Wall, unfortunately, is out. The rookie that they drafted, Rui Hachimura, hasn't been healthy. And they could be in the mix for a playoff team next year if they're all healthy. Bradley Beal chose to take the max contract and didn't want to go to a better team where these numbers, he could have averaged these numbers and made it to an all-star team. Who knows? But he chose his fate. His manager chose his fate, and he's got to live with the results, because there were a lot of good candidates with a lot of good numbers this year in the Eastern Conference. So, yeah. I already explained Devin Booker, him and Karl Anthony Towns averaging crazy numbers, but the problem is it's not converting to wins. But Devin Booker is averaging 27.1 points, and he's shooting 37% from deep, 36.8% to be exact. And you can't do anything about it. For a lot of the guys who made the Eastern and Western Conference reserves and even the All-Star starters, they're translating in wins. Like, they're winning teams, and they're getting rewarded for it because their numbers are translating to wins, except for Trae Young, who has one of the worst records with the Atlanta Hawks, but he's dropping astronomical numbers. And he's just playing at a high level right now, and you really can't take away from it because the fans enjoy his game. He has that Steph Curry game, shooting from deep. Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, and who else? And Kyrie Irving. They're all built for this All-Star game. So those guys will get the fan votes if they're healthy and they're dropping the numbers that they're supposed to drop. Next up, Jaylen Brown signed a 4-year, $107 million contract extension in the offseason, the Celtics showed faith in him, saying, yo, bro, we trust you. We know you can take it to the next level, and you have potential to become an all-star. And unfortunately for him, his team is doing really well. Like I said, sitting third in the Eastern Conference. But the problem is, if you're not dominating like the Golden State Warriors did a few years ago with the 73-9 team and the team with Kevin Durant on it for a few years, you're not going to be able to get the third or fourth all-star from your team. It's just not going to happen. And unfortunately, Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown were the fallout men for, trying to make the Eastern Conference team. Jaylen Brown is averaging 20.1 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and 1.2 steals per game, shooting 49% from the field. Him and Gordon Hayward are playing really good basketball for the Boston Celtics, but unfortunately, unless you have a Milwaukee-type record or even better and go on a crazy 20, 24-game win streak, you're not going to get 4 All-Stars from your team going to the All-Star game. It's very unlikely. Only the Golden State Warriors, the Atlanta Hawks, the Boston Celtics, the Detroit Pistons are the teams in the past that have had 4 All-Stars make it to the game. Next up, this one is going to be hard. It's a rookie, Ja Morant, carrying the Grizzlies to a 500 record right now. They had a slow start, but they've been killing it as of recent. He's averaging 17.5 points, 7.2 assists per game with 3.5 rebounds, 1.1 steals per game with 49% shooting from the field. Now, this guy is an absolute stud. He's still very young. He has multiple All-Star games to look forward to in the future. He's a guaranteed perennial All-Star. No cap. 100%. Straight facts. And the Grizzlies are the biggest surprise in the game right now, holding the 8th seed, and they're killing it. And for him, unfortunately, he's a rookie, and the only rookies as of recent to make it to an All-Star game is Blake Griffin in the 2010-2011 season, but that was technically his sophomore year because he got drafted in 2009. Yao Ming was a rookie before that, actually getting drafted to the All-Star game in 2002-2003. And even LeBron James, he didn't make it as a rookie. So, to be honest, Ja Morant didn't have much of a shot. And Zion Williamson is also another rookie from this year's class that can look forward to many, many All-Star games if he stays healthy. Those two will make it for sure next year and for years to come. Zion, I think, could have made it this year if he was healthy. Who knows? But moving on, Malcolm Brogdon. Indiana Pacers have been able to stay competitive in the Eastern Conference, and they're fighting for a top 4 seed in the East, just like many other teams. And with Victor Oladipo out, Malcolm Brogdon and Domantas Sabonis have been the ones to carry this team. And Malcolm Brogdon has been in and out of the lineup, but he's averaging 17 points per game with 7.4 assists per game as well in the backcourt, along with Justin Holiday, who goes, whoever his backcourt member is or has been up to this point, whether it's Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, Aaron Holiday, he's been killing it. And Victor Oladipo's finally back and healthy. He's not going to obviously make the All-Star game this year, but if he's back to how he played before the injury, he definitely will be there next year. Next up, Zach Lavine. Zach Lavine's individual English, please. Lavine's individual production right now for the season is 25.1 points, 4.9 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, on 38% shooting from three-point range. Now, the unfortunate thing for him is the All-Star game is in Chicago, which is the team he plays for, and he's not getting the nod. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he goes and, since he didn't make the All-Star game, he takes his frustration out and tries to get a three-peat in the slam dunk contest. I mean, how beautiful would that be? We know Aaron Gordon's going to be in the contest. We know Derrick Jones Jr. is going to be in the contest. And Dwight Howard's making a reappearance after a decade. And if Zach Lavine says he's down, he will be the cherry on top for the All-Star game. Not the All-Star game, but for the All-Star weekend. We know the three-point shooting is going to be amazing because they're always going to put their top shooters there. Unfortunately, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry won't be there based on injury. But dunk contest, oh man, I'm looking forward to it. Please, Zach Lavine, enter the dunk contest. Take your frustration out on the rim. And my last two guys are on the Detroit Pistons, starting off with Derrick Rose. He definitely is the comeback player of the year. He's held his own with Reggie Jackson out of the lineup for a very long time. He could have possibly been the sixth man of the year coming off the bench. But the man's dropping starter numbers. He's dropping all-star borderline numbers. He's averaging 18.9 points per game, 2.6 rebounds per game, and 6 assists per game, shooting 50% from the field for this season. And it's a little more improved. He's increased his averages a little bit on points per game from last season. He dropped a 50 ball last year in Minnesota. And since last year, he's been playing really well. He's been playing not to his MVP level, but he's playing like a borderline all-star, dropping numbers. The only problem is those numbers are empty stats because Detroit's not winning. They're not in the playoffs. And, it is what it is. And he didn't make the nod. He didn't get the nod. Coaches see what he's doing, and I'm pretty sure they respect everything he's done and the way he's crawled back and made his career relevant again. But him, Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin, if healthy, could have been in this conversation. And Blake Griffin, more likely than not, could have been an all-star if he was healthy, because we know the type of player he is. But we'll see next year if he's healthy. We don't know if they're going to blow his team up. They should, because Detroit Pistons deserve more than this. They should let the young guys play, and they should get assets for Derrick Rose, Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin. I think it's time to blow it up, and we'll see with the trade deadline right around the corner, a week before All-Star Weekend. Andre Drummond, Mr. 2020, always dropping 20 rebounds, 20 boards. 20 rebounds, 20 boards, the same exact thing. 20 points, 20 rebounds. He's had many of those games this year and in years prior. And he said himself he thinks he's the best rebounder in NBA history. Now, he's on the trade market. He's averaging 17.2 points per game, 15.6 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game, 2.1 steals per game, 1.8 blocks per game, 3.6 turnovers per game, shooting 52% from the field, and shooting 59% from the free throw line. These are his stats for this season. And if he were to produce this on a winning team, no matter what, I promise you he would have made that All-Star game. And it might have took out Domantas Sabonis. Who knows? But he's dropping monster numbers too. I think he's averaging like 18 and 12. I'm talking about Domantas Sabonis. And the problem with these stats, though, he hasn't really improved much. It's basically identical to what he averaged last year. He averages 17.3 points per game last year, 15.6 boards, which is exactly the same as last season, which is exactly the same as this season. 1.4 assists, so he's kind of increased on assists this year. 1.7 steals and 1.7 blocks per game last season, with 2.2 turnovers last season, shooting 53% from the field last year. Yeah, he shot 53% from the field and 59% from the line. So it's basically identical. He hasn't improved, but he's dropping big numbers, and you can't blame him because he's doing his part to keep his team relevant and to get people, he wants people, he wants tickets bought, and he wants bums, not bums. He's trying to fill the seats, right? That's what he's trying to do for his team. He's trying to get people to come watch him, and unfortunately that's not the case because Detroit has not been popping for years. Since the Chauncey Billups era. But yeah, those are the snubs from this year's All-Star game. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let me know if you have other All-Stars or All-Star snubs that you think should have made it. I feel like I've covered everybody that could have possibly made it. Only person, Mike Conley, could have been there, but he's been injured way too much, and he's on a Utah team with already 2 All-Stars this year. So there was like a negative 155% chance that he would have made it. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Till then, I'll be back tonight with the Pistons post-game podcast against the Raptors. Marc Gasol still out, but till then, I'm speaking Swahili, English, a mix of both. But yeah, stay blessed, stay woke, and please stay safe. Peace!